So, welcome today, Tuomas Salkonen from Wolfheart.
Hi again.
Okay, so Kings of the North, that's the new album. Tell us what you would consider the most interesting part of the recording process for the new album. Was there something unique or something that was like a magical moment that happened? Because it's just an awesome album throughout.
There's actually two things I can point out, both about the theme and the making of the album. I think the theme of the album carries quite a big role of how the music came up to be, and the album that shaped the album also, because it is a theme album about Finnish mythology. So it was I was reading so much different lores and beliefs and tales about Finnish nature and the demigods and the whole creation of the Nordic realm and everything. So that kind of gave this additional layer to the music also. But the recordings itself, like quite often we nowadays work separately. It's so easy to just exchange files, and everybody can record their stuff at home or different studios, just depending on their schedules. But because of the pandemic and losing about 200 gigs, which means like thousands of hours lost that I would have been spending with my friends in the band.
Yeah.
We decided to rent a cabin in a very remote location by a lake, right in the middle of the forest, and we stayed there for a few weeks to record all the guitars and the bass and finalizing the pre-production. Nobody went home, nobody went to work. Everybody was just there in this one place, quite like heavily also disconnected from the rest of the world. So I think it's like that, like spending together in the wild wilderness of Finland, isolating in a good way. I think that was the best isolation that the pandemic provided for us. So it like both, really spend time together while making the album, and the very Nordic theme that those can be heard in the music.
Yes, yes, they can. So you talked about Finnish mythology for the album. For Finnish cultural enthusiasts and fans alike, what stories or poems or works might you recommend? I know there's obviously the Kalevala, and that's huge. And so I started learning about that through Amorphous and Insufferum. What other types of works do you think would be good?
The thing is, like Finnish mythology is very very scattered and very badly documented. Kalevala is like a not just the biggest book, but basically the only one that is like a solid book and solid kind of like a story form of the mythology. So I would like more like focus finding information like very detailed information. Bear is a very fascinating creature and has a very strong symbolic meaning also in the Finnish like nature and the history. Still, certain traditions are carried with when it comes to hunting a bear. That was already like back in the days when it was considered to be the ancestor of man and like this godlike figure that was born in the stars. So, but it's very hard to like pinpoint any like books because there is none. Like how Kalevala was born, it was the author of that book just traveled from village to village to gather the stories, and it's more like a compilation
Right.
of different stories. We don't like Norwegian mythology is very structured, very well documented. It's very clear hierarchy, who were the gods, and how does the whole order of that Nordic world works with Valhalla and everything. And there's even TV series about that. So, and in Finland, it still remains as just poems and stories that are just scattered in different like different books, but there's not like a real like a whole story to
Yeah.
recommend.
It's just as you come across them, you're looking and you
Yeah,
discover it and you make a photocopy or you print it out or write it down or
yeah.
uh,
That was what I was doing when I was doing the research for the song stories and the lyrics. That I was just like digging lines here and there and parts of stories, and there was certain like space for the imagination also to fill, because it was just the core of the Finnish mythology is stories that were just spoken to people hundreds of years ago. So a lot of time has been between those times and now, barely nothing was written down.
Now, going through all this Finnish mythology, I suspect there's one character, maybe a few that stand out to you as being your favorites. Who would they be, or who would it be?
Bear. Bear is it's not like who, because but there was I do understand why it was so mystical and so different, meanings were given to the bear, because it was so clearly the apex predator of that time. When your only weapons were just sharp things that you can hold in your hand, bear is pretty hard to beat. So there's so many cool details about the bear. Like its name is still unknown. Bear is not the real name. But the real name was never spoken aloud, so it was forgotten during the time. And still, like when you hunt a bear in Finland, they carry the bear head first out from the forest. Any other animal or human being would be carried feet first, but bear is never fully dead because the spirit is believed to live forever. And back in the days when they killed the bear, they hung the skull into the sacred tree facing east, because that's where they believed the bear would the spirit would travel. So even though like nowadays human beings have gone above bear in the food chain and everything, but the respect still remains. So that's like the strongest connection with the modern days and mythology is like how we still treat that as a king of the forest, and that's where the title of the album comes. That is the king of the north. That was never a man. It should never be man. It's always the bear.
Interesting. So that's quite the converse of the jungle, right? So the lion is the king of the jungle,
Yeah.
but I guess it depends on your terrain, right?
If
you're in the
depends,
jungle, it's the lion.
Yeah. Depends on the jungle. Our jungle is more icy and more barren, but here the bear is the king.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, quick aside, several years ago, we traveled to Yellowstone National Park here in the U.S., and there were several bear sightings, I think grizzly bear sightings. And so we're driving through, and all of a sudden the line stops for miles, and we can't figure out why. We thought, okay, maybe it's some bison walking through, taking over the road. No. Everyone had pulled over to see a grizzly bear. Just this huge grizzly bear out in the stream eating his fish, and he's just looking around like, okay, what's up? And then he just keeps eating, and then he just walks along. So yes, what you say is like, oh yeah, he is king of the land, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. One thing I've wondered, and I've noticed through the Napalm portion of your catalog for Wolfheart, the continuity of sound is in line, it aligns, it sounds the same from one album to the next. And what I mean to say by that is it doesn't sound like you went to one studio over here or you went to another studio in this country and the production is all different. You still sound like the same band, right? Yeah. And you talked about going to the cabin, isolation, having that calm, cool effect, right? So, I mean, did you take notes from your last album to the new album? And what brings to mind there, Flemming Rasmussen, right? He recorded, the Metallica albums, the early on albums. And I saw online he had pictures of his handwritten notes, about the different volumes and effects. So how do you do that?
Well, we did take our both sound engineers were in the cabin also. They were they were very much involved also in the pre-production, and I think it's really important for at least for me as a songwriter to be still able to work with the same sound engineers, because when they started learning to be professionals, I was still learning to be a songwriter. So during the years, each of us have been evolving, hopefully towards better. But at least I can say that for them, because now both Saku and Juho. Saku has been doing Dawn of Solace mainly, but this is the first Wolfheart album he's mixing, and Juho has done all previous Wolfheart and before the Dawn albums. So it's like being a long travel together, making each album. We always try to make each album better than the previous one, but we do it together in a way. So it's every year something new we picked up something new. We became a little bit better musicians or songwriters or sound engineers, and that kind of like just updates the same sound that we already found years ago.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't think that none of the guys do actually take notes, but it's been so tight journey together. Like they know exactly what I do with the guitar and what kind of sound I aiming for, and what do I do with my vocals. And yeah, we done me, Juha and Saku together. We've done about 18 albums. So you learn from each others, and you learn to work more precisely and more easily together. So it's yeah, we don't take notes. We just grew tighter together.
Yeah. So you grew up as brothers, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Through the years. So not only the band, but the mixing and engineers and
yeah.
all that. Just like, okay, that's good. That's interesting because oftentimes you see and you read articles about big time producers. I won't name them because I really don't listen to them. But like, hey, we did this, we took notes, and then here you are. You're like, no, we know each other already, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get it done.
And of course, I've been very, very lucky to be surrounded with so talented people. Like they are a huge part of the sound of the band and all of my bands. But also, like because of that, like learning to do things together, there's always a downside. I don't think I could even work with another producer. Like, not that I would need to or I would want to, but it's been like I've been developing my songwriting and especially studio work methods to direction that I don't think any other producer would want to work with me. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Because we have a very strong common trust, and the guys know me exactly and my abilities and everything, and I do get, I don't know how to say it in English, but yeah. I don't think any other producer or sound engineer would be happy about me coming to the studio with only one part of melody in my head, and I don't even know the tempo of the song. But in the end of the day, I want that song to be recorded. So that takes a special kind of process also. So each album I get a little bit more like how do I say it in English? I still more freedom to myself as an artist with each album, which steers me away from like this very like tight professional approach that a lot of people might think that I have. But it's just and the more freedom I get, the easier it is for me to write music. So I think the result is getting better because of that also. Because
Yes.
there's no pressure or anything. It's just even though we are friends, but we are very professional. But I get to be more as an artist than I probably could with any other producer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear, and I think I can hear it definitely in the sound. And as the band has matured through the years, it's always been professional sounding to me, right? But it's just each new release, it gets even better. It's like, how is this possible? Well, it is, right? And one thing I notice about the lyrics, in English, because I don't know if you're thinking in English or if you're thinking in Finnish, but in the English lyrics, it's like poetry. And then as I saw the poetry, and I've read some of my limited experience of the Kalevala, but in
Yeah.
English, it's almost like I'm seeing another transcript or manuscript or another chapter of it, right, visually. And so I think that's really interesting how all that works. It's kind of like a guest portion session. So one of my friends, good friends, Ian Kelly, he and we got to know each other actually after seeing him and him seeing me at the Wolfheart show in Dallas back in 2018. So anyway, we work at the same place, and so we talk a lot. So in terms of touring, he wants to know what your favorite venues are, if you have any, and what experiences make those concerts most memorable.
I don't have a favorite venue, but I have one favorite festival, and that is a festival called Summer Breeze in Germany. It is really well run festival. It's a huge one, but not too big, so I can still handle the what is going on. Like Wacken Open Air is a little bit too big. I would love to play there again, but as a Finnish very like introvert person. Like that many people, 70,000 people is a lot to handle. But it's as a festival is one of the best in Europe anyway. But they have been so supportive towards me. Like first Wolfheart show ever, like festival show outside Finland took place there, and it was right after the debut album came out. And I think that I have a small story that actually explains my affection to the festival also. When I disbanded all the other bands and formed Wolfheart, and I got the album ready, I sent the guys an email that they used to book Before the Dawn several times. Black Sania was playing there. And I was explaining that there's a new band coming. I had a few songs on a Dropbox link. I didn't get any reply, so I thought like it makes sense. This is a small band. There is no like fan base, nothing. And then I released the album. I did myself. There was no distribution outside Finland. There was only one record store in Finland that was selling outside Finland, but no actual distribution. There was no CDs in Germany. There was no real promotion. It was very like a do-it-yourself, small kind of thing. And then I sent them another email like, this is the link of the songs. Check it out if you have time. And then they replied like, yeah, no, we already pre-ordered the album from the Finnish store, and we've been listening to the album for 2 weeks. Just name a day. Just name the day when you want to play. Like, so those kind of like, and you can imagine when things were just starting, and I was kind of like nervous and anxious to see how things will start after like disbanding, especially Before the Dawn, after 7 full lengths, a lot of touring and everything, going back to square one, and having those kind of emails, how much energy that kind of like a support gives, especially in the beginning. So that's I have so many reasons to love that festival.
Awesome. He's got one other question. So in terms of the music industry, have you noticed or experienced issues in the industry regarding the demand for more content more quickly, tighter budgets, touring, making music videos, keeping up with all the noise, right? Keeping current and staying on top of everything.
I've noticed a change that there's but it hasn't bothered me though, because there's always been change. Music business is like any other business, is reacting on the trends and the behavior of the new generations. Young people have quite a big saying. Like when young people just decide to use certain app more than the other ones, that's where the music business goes, like any other business. So it's just how the business is evolving and surviving. So it's just different tools. Of course, the change has been more rapid in the past 5 and 10 years.
Yes.
But it's just how it goes. I don't really like want to spend too much time thinking of it, because it doesn't change anything. There's like, I know my limits. I don't like I enjoy a certain amount of exposure and connection with the fans, but I wouldn't do like Switch or TikTok or stuff like this, like daily base, like this machine gun fire tempo of content and revealing too much about my real life and try to be funny every day, and like that's where I would draw the line. But I understand it's just the business evolving, and that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that as a fan, especially because I don't know, it's like a mystique, or it's just like, hey, there's something coming. I don't know when it's coming, but when it comes out, it's going to be good. And that's one thing I've learned about becoming friends with some Finns, and through the past several years, that it's not coming out until it's ready.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It could be a new product, could be a new book, new movie, documentary, whatever. It'll get there when it gets there. And that's one thing I'm learning, to actually adjust my way of thinking. Like, okay, do what you can. And if you can't do it, you'll get to it eventually. Right. So, yeah. So that perspective, I really appreciate it. So I got a couple other questions, then we'll wrap this up. So, as is always welcome, Wolfheart has some piano parts, throughout the songs, and string sections and acoustic guitar. The baritone acoustic guitar, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Will there be any occasions on upcoming tours where you actually play the piano and some other folks are playing the strings or acoustic guitar? What do you think?
Not on the tours, at least in the in the future as long as I can see, because tours are different, especially looking at our status. We are still supporting artists in a bigger tours. Hopefully we get to do co-headlining as soon as possible, but we would need to be like a solid headliners to be able to have that long of a set list, to be able to have that kind of like special stuff in the set list, but not but mentioning the whole acoustic and piano and everything. The debut album Winterborn is going to be 10 years old next year, and I've been playing with the thought that it would be really nice to like make a full like acoustic arrangement of the whole album with clean vocal arrangements instead of growling, and different songs have a different arrangement. Some of them have the piano, some of them have the acoustic bass with the acoustic baritone, and maybe do like a streaming thing of that or something like that would be really cool. But because that would be its own little acoustic world.
Yeah,
but when you bring that to the touring environment, it's like it gets so much smaller, the amount of options that you can do. It would be just one or two songs. It would be like audio would be complicated for the sound engineer, and it probably wouldn't be that good experience for the audience also, because with the acoustic stuff you want to create a different kind of mood also.
yes,
You want people to, I would prefer people to sit down. It would be a smaller club, it would be more intimate. But if you do that in the middle of a metal show, right after you see a huge fall of death and mosh pit, that the mood would be also wrong. I don't think it like some
yes,
people would hate the acoustic part because it kind of like breaks the energy. Some people would love to hear it more, but they hate the other part of the audience who just won't shut up. And it would be very complicated environment. But
yes,
I've been thinking about doing something bigger with the acoustic stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So speaking of that, about being headliners and things, and maybe having an acoustic venue. So that brings to the next question. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Finnish metal tours they had set up in the U.S. The last one they had was in 2011. It
Yeah.
was, it's a Ferrum and
Yeah.
okay. So why not have Wolfheart be the headliner for the next Finnish metal tour, right?
If there's going to be one, who knows? I think a lot of plans changed with the pandemic, and it's changing even more with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, because that's
Yeah.
and honestly, I see it clearly that we took one or two step like what is the word in English? You never take a nap before an interview. That sounds like a good plan on the paper. It doesn't do good for the brain, but yeah, backwards. Yeah, that was the word. Like we have taken now one or two steps backward in the hierarchy of the industry because of the pandemic. It was very bad timing for us, a little bit worse for us than some other bands, and now we just work to build things up again. So I know it's going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more work to reach the headlining status. It's not there yet, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But it's just I see a different amount of work ahead of us to reach that now. So
Yeah.
I would love it to have it. I don't want to sound pessimistic or anything. I'm just but yeah, I wouldn't mind headlining a Finnish metal tour. But I know the Finnish scene very well, and I know where we stand at the moment. So it wouldn't happen yet.
Yes, yeah. And my goal in asking these types of questions, obviously, I don't want to put pressure on y'all because you got enough pressure already, right? It's just like, kind of, fan inspired. Hey, this would be cool if, that or whatever. And, speaking of the acoustic set, having it out, maybe in the forest somewhere in one of the shelters there or something with some of the torches that glow at night. I don't know, like y'all used in one of the videos, just like, oh, I mean, it's just fascinating. Anyway, do you have any parting words for fans?
I'm just counting days to meet all the fans. That's the weirdest thing, because I don't do this like a social media interacting that much or enjoy it as much as other people probably. But we spend a lot of time with the fans after each show, and having 200 shows taken away from us, we kind of like it feels like we are losing the connection with the fans also, because there's no merch table in the Facebook where you can just go and hang around and catch up with the fans. So
Yes.
yeah, but I know that we already have North American tour confirmed, but I'm not allowed to tell any details. But it's in the horizon. It will happen.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. That makes my day. That's like Christmas. I'm like a huge fan, so that's awesome.